Hey, good morning from Little Hollow Homestead. As you can tell by the snow on the mountain behind me, things are slowing down. The growing season's coming to an end. It's time to put the garden to bed for winter, get it prepped for next spring, do any improvements. I'll take you down there in just a minute and show you what's going on down there and some improvements and new ideas I've got. As you all know, if you've watched any of my videos before, I like trying new things. Some work, some don't, but I've got some new ideas down in the garden. We'll see if they work for next year. My trusty assistant. So my trusty assistant Izzy is here ready to help me this morning. Of course, she is hyper-focused on her ball and for someone to throw her tennis ball. So we'll do that for a minute, get her worn out a little so she's not so hyper. Chickens are out this morning. This little Rhode Island Red is always the first one to greet me each morning. She's very friendly, very tame. She was the first one, came up the stairs this morning to say hi. These other two girls followed. Hopefully the rest are down there laying me some eggs. So, as you can tell, winter is not far away. The snow is creeping down the mountain. We have had a few freezes. Haven't had anything really below 20 yet, but it's coming soon. So let's go down. We'll show you the improvements to the garden and show you how I take care of it and get it ready for winter. So my regular full-time job, they have a lot of catered meals for a lot of events. That's kind of what I do, is help manage events and facilities. Always have food left over after catered meals. A lot of leftover food makes it either out to my pigs or it makes it down to my chickens. So today we're going to be taking these leftovers down to the chickens and let them pick through it. No one has thrown her ball yet, and she's very impatient. Izzy, where's your ball? Where's your ball? There it is. Okay, let's take the ball down. All right, let's go down. Give these scraps to the chickens. I'll show you a little bit about what I'm doing down here in the garden. Looks like I got one pumpkin left. Just starting to get orange on the top, but it has grown in the shade all summer long. So when it comes to carving, we might have a green pumpkin to carve. So you can see there's some drip irrigation parts. That'll be a project for this winter to get the drip irrigation going all around the garden. As you can tell, leaves are falling off the oak brush. So like I was saying earlier, this little red hen follows me wherever I go. She's the first in buffet line. Little rice, little green beans, some corn. Looks like a couple of pancakes. Who knows what's going on? Izzy wants in on the action. So for chickens, when you winterize chickens, a couple of things are important. First of all, I've still yet to get their coop all cleaned out from the summer, but that's a project that is going to happen in the next couple of days. Get them some clean bedding for winter. It's good to have, I don't know, 6-10 inches of straw in there just to insulate them a little bit, help them through the winter. Another thing that's really important for chickens, especially in the wintertime, as you can see, I've got the front pretty much covered with a little opening there for them to come in and out, the 2 nest boxes. That nest box is a new addition. I just did that the other day. They were crowding up in this one nest box and laying in the litter on the bottom of their coop, so we don't want that. So one of the biggest things, chickens can keep warm on their own very naturally. Biggest thing is ventilation. As you can see at the top of this, amongst all the spider webs, we've got a couple of air vents. It's good to keep chickens out of the wind. Like I was saying, it's good to keep the chickens out of the wind and out of the draft, especially when it gets really cold. As they roost, their feet will sit on the perch naturally, and then they'll put their feathers and they'll kind of ruffle around their feet. So they keep themselves warm really well. They don't need supplemental heat, at least in my area they don't. And they do quite well during the wintertime. A couple of things that I do during the winter, especially when it snows. The chickens do not come out in the snow. They hate it. I like to encourage them to get out. So when it does snow, I'll shoot more videos when the snow flies. But I'll just take a thin layer of straw and I'll just create them a little path. It goes all the way out to their feeder and their water. So in the water, in my climate, you have got to have a tank heater or that will freeze solid. You always want to have your chickens free access to water and food, especially during the winter time. In years past, as you can see by this extension cord, I've supplied them with supplemental light to keep them laying during the winter time to keep the egg production up. I don't know. I think it might be unfair to the chickens to push them that hard. So this year I'm going to give them a rest. We'll see how that goes. Looks like Izzy has found what she likes in the buffet. Here comes little Silver Lace to join in on the fun. The rest of them are up scratching around up there somewhere. Up on top of the hollow somewhere. Anyway, so this second nest box I built, you can see it's patterned after my old original nest box. But given that additional place to lay eggs has been very beneficial. Another thing I've done is, this is especially important in the wintertime, I believe, is to give them a roost, something to get up out of the snow. Other than inside the hen house itself, they've got a way to get up, get off the snow, let those feathers settle around their feet and get warm and keep warm during the wintertime. So when the snow flies, I'll show you how I encourage the chickens to come out and walk in the snow and get access to their feed and water to keep them healthy all winter long. So now that the growing season's over, you can see I've started putting stuff in my little mulch pit here. It's not very big, but it creates enough compost for me and for what I need, in addition to what I've already got going up here in the pots. And then of course, when I do clean the chickens out, the manure will go in here and it'll compost and makes really good soil for or compost for your garden. So let's take a little tour of the garden as it slowly fades into winter. See, all my potato pots have all been put back to bed. Amended the soil, mixed it up real good again, and let some new nutrients decompose during the winter, so that soil will be nice and ready to go for spring. One thing I do, and it's kind of been a controversy, I don't know, it's never been a controversy for me, but I've heard it from people, that when your stuff dies back, a lot of people just leave it lay and then they'll clean it up in the spring. There's a couple of problems with that, in my view. Number one, it encourages rodents and stuff to nest in the debris that you've left. It also, if you got any diseased plants, like if you've had a huge infestation of squash bugs, like I've had with these spaghetti squash this year, I'll take all the straw, everything around there, the vines and everything, and just throw it away, get it off my property. Don't want it around. And that goes the same if you have tomatoes disease or cucumbers or whatever. If you had a problem with any kind of plant, don't compost it. It just keeps that bacteria or whatever's going on in the soil. You don't want that. So a couple of the improvements I've done, I didn't do them on camera, but I'm going to try and grow things more vertically next year. Number one reason, I'm trying to get the plants up off the ground to get them away from the bugs and the varmints and whatever else sneaking in here and nibbling on my stuff. So one thing you'll see is up here, I've got this vertical fence between some T-posts. Pretty simple process. And then I'll plant my plants down here in these pots. This will probably be tomatoes and cucumbers up here. And then I'll clip these to this fence, and as they grow up, clip them and get them to grow vertically. So because my main fence is right behind this fence, how are you going to pick stuff on this side? So in classic little hollow homestead fashion, I came up with these little holes that you can reach behind the plant, pick whatever you need. So in between every two plants, I've got these access holes that allow you access to the back of the plant to pick tomatoes, cucumbers, whatever's growing back there that you can't reach. So that's the plan for that. Down here, I've got another trellis up. What was that? I've got another trellis up. I'll be planting behind it in these pots. So these plants will kind of grow up this way. My theory, whether crackpot or not, is as the plants grow up on this side of the trellis, they'll seek the sun and they'll naturally find their way to the front and fill in the front. So this one you can access from both front and back to pick whatever I decide to grow here next year. And I think my potatoes will all be growing in these outlying pots, since they really don't climb and don't need that vertical support. As you can tell, I must have missed a potato or two. And this was a little experiment I did. I planted some new potatoes, gosh, probably middle of September, just to see what happens. So I'm going to actually cover this all winter and just kind of see how it does. Just never know. So down here, like I said, the plants will be growing on the back. There's another volunteer potato. So the pots will be growing from the back. And then I've got these in-ground pots, if you can see that. I'm going to get rid of, this is where we had the big squash bug infestation. So all this is garbage. But these in-ground pots, I'll clean all the debris off the top. I'll amend the soil, dig it up and get it ready for winter. But these will probably be the spaghetti squash, and they'll grow on the front. We'll give spaghetti squash another try. So growing up, we always had asparagus growing on the ditch banks, the irrigation ditches where I grew up. This year I've actually planted asparagus from seed. So this will probably go for a couple of years before I actually see any harvest from it. But this is kind of just going to be a pot that I leave alone, that I just let the asparagus do its thing. These pots I have not harvested yet. Seems kind of a shame to kill off those marigolds. I don't know what we'll find. I can't remember what I planted in here. I think it was just carrots. And that is a bust. Call Bugs Bunny, man. I got him hooked up. I would say that is an epic failure with the carrots this year. I don't know what you say, but maybe next year I won't grow them in these little pots. I'll grow them in something a little bigger. That's kind of comical. Let's try this one. Oh yeah, now we're talking. Look at those. I really didn't do much with these carrots. I planted them. I just had some seed left over. And as you can see, this is what happens when you don't tend to your vegetable plants during the year. They don't perform very well. So I think that'll be chicken or deer food. There's my one little pest control onion. Oh yeah, look at those beauties. So what happened is, in these few pots over here, I jumped the gun a little bit and I planted some tomato plants in there that were a little too early, and they ended up freezing. And so, I don't know, probably about June or so, they were empty, and I decided to put some carrot seed in it. And as you can tell, like I said, I neglected them, and this is what I got. So let's try one more. Woohoo! So all this debris, the onion stalks, everything, those are good healthy onions. So those will go in the compost pit. All my old beans. I'm not very optimistic about this last pot of carrots, but what the heck. You can tell this is my okra experiment that I started way late. Ooh. So there you go. Luckily, my wife really likes baby carrots. So I think it took me all summer, but I grew her a snack. And I don't believe I planted carrots in that one. I don't know what I planted in there. But I got exactly nothing. So, in the next coming days, I'll clear all this debris out of the garden. I did save some beans and let them grow. Right here, so they're fully mature and dry. They're not completely dry yet. There's still a little spring to them. So once those are completely dried off, I'll go through here and get some bean seed for next year. Big fan of saving seeds. Not only does it save you money, but if there's a variety of whatever it is you're growing that you really like, you're not always going to be able to find it. So it's a good way to keep heirloom vegetables, things that aren't hybrids that you can actually save the seeds from and regrow on your property and keep propagating. Like I've done with banana squash. I think I'm probably on 6 or 7 years of the same banana squash variety. I save seeds every year and we always have plenty of banana squash. Pumpkins the same way. So we're going to do that with the beans this year. I really enjoyed this variety of yellow wax bean. So we'll do that. So the next video you see, this garden will be all cleaned up, tucked away for winter, and we'll start making plans for next year. Pretty decent root system for a tomato plant. With a little hot cap for that, my experimental wintertime potato. Start off with this, hopefully it'll continue to grow and I can make the covering a little bigger. So you can see I painted all these half-gallon or these jugs with the bottoms cut off black to help retain heat, especially during the springtime. Keep them warm to avoid any frost in the early season. So one thing I failed to show you is this old sagebrush I got growing here. This was here long before I created this terrace system and put my garden here. Most people think sagebrush is a weed. I absolutely love it. So I'm letting it grow, letting it do its thing, against my wife's better judgment. And I really enjoy it. It produces a lot of seed. You can see the seed in there. It really hasn't finished maturing yet. But eventually, I mean, I take seed and I'll scatter it on the hillside and stuff to encourage more sagebrush growth, because I really enjoy it. Love the smell, love the look at it. I love the look of it. It's part of Utah's heritage. We got lots of sagebrush and I'm a big fan. So it stays. So one thing I forgot to do, I did have some volunteer potatoes that were growing in these in-ground pots from 2 seasons ago. Can't really see, everything's kind of died back. But do have a few little potatoes. I'll dig through here and see what I can find. Hopefully it'll be a little better harvest than my original harvest in these pots. Kind of a disappointment with the potatoes this year, so next year we'll try something different. But that's gardening. If you stick with the same things, I'm sure you're going to have success. It's tried and true. So I try to have a balance of that. I try to always plant my tried and true, like my banana squash that I've grown forever, the pumpkins I've grown forever, the tomato variety that I've grown forever. So you always have those standards that are kind of the base of your gardening experience. And then I like to experiment, as you've seen. So next year we'll experiment with different varieties of potatoes, maybe find some varieties that might store a little better, and get some good quality seed potatoes instead of just regular old potatoes that I saved from last year. So if you're not experimenting, you're not trying. At least that's my view. Thanks for stopping by the garden today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Always give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like, and if you learned something, great. If you got suggestions, great. I don't know it all, and we're in this together, enjoying the journey. Thanks. Hey, throwing away these little marigolds, so we'll see what happens. It might overwinter. There's another thing you can do as far as saving seeds goes, these little seed pods on these marigolds. There again, this one isn't dry yet, but you can propagate marigolds, plant those in the spring, and you know, that's just one seed pod. And look how many seeds I got out of it. So you figure how many seeds I've got going here. I can have the whole hillside covered in marigolds next year. All right, well, we'll get serious here in a couple of days and finish cleaning that up and show you the finished product. Don't have time this morning to take care of that. It's time to go out and pick up our pork that's been processed out in the meat processor. That'll be another video. Get your house. And Izzy's day is done.